Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Espace News avec Christophe Paget with a week in space and out of space. So we shall review the progress in Boca Chica from SpaceX, Relativity Space and Astrobotic, followed by an event in the ISS, and also talking about Blue Ring from Blue Origin. We will also talk about Jupiter and this week's launches. We will finish the episode by a planned ambition from AstroForge and Space mining, and a recent magnificent picture from the Hubble Space Telescope. Let us have a starbase update. Booster 11 has been completed and left the high bay to be sent to Macy's side for expected cryogenic testing. It met with ship 29 there. For some reason, ship 29 was later on brought back to the production site without cryo testing. The Star Factory is continuing its expansion. The height of the factory near Highway 4 is rather tall, perhaps linked to the last pre-assembled junctions of the booster/Starship before going to the high and mega base. We can only admire the will of SpaceX to have such a facility size before even having succeeded in sending a rocket to orbit from Boca Chica, so quite impressive. Then SpaceX has put the hot stage ring and ship 25 back on top of booster 9 and then taken it out again. Booster 11 has finally been going through his cryogenic tests as expected, and ship 26 has undergone static fire with, I believe, one vacuum Raptor engine. On the International Space Station, I might have not mentioned in the previous weeks, but actually one of the modules is actually leaking. It's to do with their radiators, and several times the astronauts wanted to go out and see how to fix it, but decided otherwise to leave NASA more time to investigate what may be the real problem and investigate how to fix it as well. Blue Origin has unveiled Blue Ring, a spacecraft platform focused on providing in-space logistics and delivery. Blue Ring expects to support commercial and government customers with a variety of missions in orbit anywhere between Earth and the Moon and beyond. The platform is more or less a space taxi, able to bring satellites to different orbits, allow refueling, to be used as data relay, including an in-space cloud computing capability. Blue Ring can host payloads of more than 3 metric tons and provides necessary Delta V capabilities to extend satellite missions. Blue Ring is a new space taxi where satellites are the only customers. I assume this module will be added onto New Glenn as a selling point for future customers and perhaps offered onto other platforms. Would you believe that a Star Wars TIE fighter landed at ESA Open Days at ESTEC in the Netherlands, taking up residence in ESA Hertz radio frequency test chamber, where it has been seen by more than 8,000 visitors over the weekend. Now, the TIE fighter was actually made by a team of enthusiasts in Germany under a project called Project X1. Obviously, the spacecraft is a mock-up, but we can only admire the will of these guys and these Star Wars fans, and which was also further picked up by ESA, and that proves also that ESA has quite a nice sense of humor. Relativity Space has been busy preparing infrastructures for Terran R, the large rocket they've had. If you remember, Terran 1 was the very first all 3D printed rocket, and Terran R is really the one they want to bring for the future. So what you see is basically Terran R infrastructure in NASA's Stennis, in that historic A2 vertical test stand, being modified for testing the engine of Terran R, but also the Cape Canaveral, the Space Launch Complex 16, a very historic one as well, very old one, is being demolished so that they can replace it by the propellant farm and future launch pad. Researchers have discovered a high-speed jet stream sitting over Jupiter above the main cloud using the James Webb Space Telescope. Now, this image highlights several of the features around Jupiter's equatorial zone that are very clearly disturbed by the motion of the jet stream during the rotation of the planet. Astrobotic, a Pittsburgh company, completed its first successful flight test campaign of its Zodiac in Mojave, California, in partnership with the University of Central Florida. According to his announcement, 4 flights aboard the company's Zodiac vertical takeoff, vertical landing rocket were used to test the effectiveness of the university's ejector storm laser sensor. Now, the test provides researchers with data that will help researchers and the laser sensors developer better understanding of plume surface interactions in hope of human returning to the moon during NASA's Artemis program. On Sunday the 15th of October, China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation launched a Herein 104 satellite on board of its Long March 2D from Yongquan Satellite Launch Center in China. Now, the satellite was destined to detect marine, space and atmospheric environment, disaster prevention and mitigation, as well as scientific experiments. On the 17th of October, SpaceX sends to circular low Earth orbit 22 of its Starlink V2 minis, mission called Group 623 from Cape Canaveral Space Force at the Space Launch Complex 40 in Florida, atop a Falcon 9 Block 5. Now, the first stage landed in the Atlantic Ocean on the drone ship Just Read the Instructions for its 16th time. Dawn Aerospace delivers propulsion systems for AstroForge's first asteroid mission. This asteroid mining startup is ready to launch the first ever commercial deep space mission. Mining asteroids sounds like a science fiction, but has a very practical force behind it. As the world transitions away from fossil fuel and begins to rely even more on electricity, it's going to need more metals. But Earth's resources are limited, and many of the best places to mine for important metal are already being tapped. On Monday, an analysis published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science find that the metals needed for batteries and renewable energies infrastructure could start to go up in price, potentially delaying the clean energy transition. The analysis goes on to suggest that demand for metals will force mining companies to dig in places where such metal aren't as readily available, which comes with significant economic and environmental costs. Early next year, a SpaceX rocket will be launching a drill to the surface of the moon as part of its Artemis program. And hitching a ride on that rocket will be a small spacecraft with a much more distant destination, an asteroid that will take about 9 months to reach. That ship, called Brooker 2, is being built by a California-based AstroForge as part of its journey to commercialize mining in space. Now, many of the asteroids in our solar systems, however, are chock full of the metals that are needed for the industries of the future, such as cobalt, nickel, and platinum group metals. Plus, those metals can be found at higher concentration than on Earth, meaning smaller amount of materials can be mined to produce more metals. Now, the analysis suggests that over time, it will be possible to transition away from mining on Earth for the most part, instead relying on space resources to supply the planet's needs. That's exactly the market that AstroForge hopes to tap. Co-founder Jose Acain cites that a decade ago, a deep space mission would have required reserving a rocket at a cost of hundreds of millions. But today's smaller spacecraft routinely share space with larger spacecraft on one rocket, which dramatically lower the cost involved. Now, the company estimates that the total cost of its Boca Chica mission will be less than $10 million. AstroForge already launched a spacecraft earlier this year, which is currently in orbit testing the company's mineral refining technology. For its first deep space mission, the company has targeted an asteroid that it thinks has a higher concentration of metal than Earth, known as a M-type asteroid, but its first mission won't actually mine anything. Instead, his spacecraft will be flying by it, using his cameras to explore its craters and other geological structures to confirm this is the case. This will be the first time a human spacecraft has done a close inspection of such an asteroid. For example, NASA's Psyche mission, which launched last week, in fact, is heading to explore another M-type asteroid, but it won't reach its destination until 2029. AstroForge hopes that the data gathered on Boca Chica's mission can then be used to plan future mining missions. Now, you can see on the footage that the amazing infrastructure plan for asteroid mining, installing a base to support continuous mining and repatriating this content to Earth. This week, we shall end this episode with a lovely Hubble Space Telescope picture of a close-in view of a spiral galaxy called IC 5332, which lies about 30 million light years away in the constellation of Sculptor. Now, it's seen face on, showing its circular shape and tightly winding spiral arms. The galaxy glows brightly in the center and dim to cool colors towards the edge. Dark, faint filament of dusts and brightly glowing pink and orange bubbles of star formation mark the face of the galaxy. Now, thank you very much for sticking with me. I hope this episode provided you with sufficient and interesting space news. Space is vast, and so is the amount of available information. Keep watching for more. Have a great week, and goodbye, folks.